Going live. I'm alive. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Xah Talk Show. And today we are going to do Emacs Lisp coding, Emacs in general. So if you have questions, post it, okay? Post it, comments, and if you have a question for me, post my name to it. Today is 2021, August 3rd, and we are going to do Emacs Lisp. So today is going to be nothing but Emacs Lisp. Emacs and Emacs stuff in general. I wanted to show you some of the fantastic graphics we did in Wolfram language in the past few days. Okay, some of the fantastic things we did, in the past week. Okay, Emacs. Let's focus on Emacs. This we did yesterday. Fantastic. Okay, so Emacs. So what we're gonna do? First of all, I'm going to give you. I'm gonna tell you about what's going on. Join Discord. Join my XahTV Discord if you haven't already. So let's go to Emacs. So Emacs. What have I been done in the past weeks? So I updated a lot of my packages. You can go to Xah Emacs packages. I updated many of the screenshots. For example, let me show you some of the great ones. Okay, Xah Emacs Lisp mod. So you can see on the left is Xah Emacs Lisp mod. Syntax coloring. Every built-in symbol is syntax colored and colored differently by their type. Okay, on the right side you are seeing GNU Emacs Lisp mod, which does not color. Okay, so that's my kind of, because I want to fix that. So that is why I created Xah Emacs Lisp mod. Okay, so Xah Emacs Lisp mod, Xah JavaScript mod. JavaScript mod is fantastic. Again, syntax colored by the keywords, by all the words in the language. And if it's not colored, that means that word is not built in. Okay, and the color differently according to their type. For example, attributes. I mean, in terms of programming language, the jargon is built-in symbols and anyway, syntax color. Okay, so parameter names. So that's Xah JavaScript mod. This is most suitable if you are coding pure JavaScript. Okay, no npm, no libraries, pure JavaScript. This is fantastic. Okay. Xah JavaScript mod and Xah math input mod. I updated the screenshot so you can see all the, for example, if I want to type sum, let's magnify the, I don't have I should create a key. So if I want sum, I just press that key. If I want alpha, if I want pi, if I want gamma, okay, that's gamma, and capitalize, okay, you can copy, paste, and capitalize, and this is a Greek capital alpha. Okay, it appears the same as English A. So this is English A, Latin. So you can describe character. You can see the name, Latin capital letter A, and if you describe character on that, then you got Greek capital letter alpha. Okay, so this is Xah math input mod, and you can also have emoji. Okay, you can. I forgot what's the shortcut for emoji, but for example, let's do this command. Okay, so D is that, CMD is the keyboard, Mac keyboard command symbol. Okay. Let's see, helm. Helm is the Hindu religious symbol. Helm, it's like a helm, because it's a Dharma wheel. It's a wheel of life. Okay, Hindu religious symbol, and this symbol happens to also be used as a standard. I believe it's an ISO standard for control key. So control key. Okay, we are getting into some random topics, but let me show you. Okay, so Unicode, you can see, search for Unicode, Xah Unicode, you can find my Unicode page. Then let's go to keyboard. Okay, let me show you. This is very interesting topic. So on this page you see all the symbols. They used for the keyboard labels. For you can see, let's go down so you can see all the, and I include photos, the Windows logo key, the Windows Microsoft keyboard, they use a particular symbol for control key, which looks like an asterisk. Okay, so you can see then there's symbols for zoom in, zoom out, for turn on camera, for documents, for cap lock, and you can see the study of symbols on keyboards, symbology, and Unicode. Okay, and on the Mac you can see the helm symbol is used here, and this symbol is also sometimes used on by Linux documentation. They use this sometimes, occasionally. And there's Alt key. There's so the study of keyboard symbols. Okay, and let's go back. Okay, so copy that URL back to Emacs. Close this page. Go to talk show. Today's talk show. Let's paste in the topics we talked about. So paste it, linkify. So show in browser. This is what we are going to do today. Comments, questions? It's all Greek to me. Celtic Orthodox. Hello. Himasu. Hello. Are you Japanese? Himasu. Me too. Bartholomew. Hello, Bartholomew. And Justin Scaffey, the mathematician from Canada. Say something, Justin. I haven't seen you for a while. Justin. So the mathematician, the professional mathematician from Canada. Are you a professor yet? Are you a assistant professor or some type of professor? So say it, okay, Justin, if you still here. So we talked about XAH Emacs. I'm talking about some of my Emacs packages. So you can download it for free, of course, and the free as in free beer, also as in freedom. The GNU ideology, communism, basically. So XAH CSS mod is also CSS mod. Okay, so we are going to work on CSS, some Emacs Lisp coding on CSS today. So you can see this is my XAH CSS mod. Again, the salient feature. The feature, of course, it's my code, so I design it the way I see, the way I judge it is the best. Again, one of the salient feature, which is that all keywords are colored. That is built-in CSS words. If it's not colored, that means you spelled it wrong. Okay, so that's one of the feature. And also, they are colored by the type, the semantics of the word. For example, the blue, for example, let's see if we can let me show you a real one, okay? So, Indian, Himasu Shukla, okay, you are Indian. Is that an Indian name or Japanese name? Maybe it's an Indian name. Okay, so here is my website's CSS file. So you can see there are 195 lines, which is pretty small. Okay, as compared to most other websites, Wikipedia or mainstream websites, their CSS file is like over 1,000 lines. Okay, so this is my CSS file, and this is colored according to XAH CSS mod. Okay, let's shrink. Let's magnify. Okay, well, I want to show you the. Okay, let's copy that and create a new buffer and paste it here. And now I'm going to show this in Emacs CSS mod, okay, which is the default, so you can kind of see the difference. So Emacs CSS mod, okay, it's just CSS mod. Okay, so this is the Emacs CSS mod versus okay, let's see. So let's split. Let me show you this. Split the buffer and switch to Untitled. So on the right side, so okay, hold on a second. So let's make them the same size, the font the same size, okay? So on the left side is XAH CSS mod. On the right side is the GNU Emacs CSS mod. Now I want to tell you the GNU Emacs CSS mod here on the right side. Okay. Now I want to tell you some difference. For example, you can see this nav back some ID random string. Okay, so that is not a keyword in CSS. That is an attribute name in my HTML. So it's colored black. On the other hand, in GNU, the default Emacs CSS mod, that's just all blue. So I consider that a advantage, XAH CSS mod. So let's go down a page. Then here you can see lots of the other, the black, those are attribute names. Those are not part of CSS. So, okay, that's a difference. Okay, so close that. Don't save. Shrink it. Make it one window. Actually, close this window and close this window. We don't need it. And go back to this window. Close that. Back to XahTalk show it. Okay, close it. Okay, we talked about that. So XAH CSS mod. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm going to. That's and plus it has other features such as a brief templates. So you can. Okay, let me demonstrate. Okay, so open CSS again. Magnify. Let's say you want all div stuff to be colored red. So type div and bracket, then C space becomes color, space again, it becomes red. Okay, so this is, let's say, font family. Okay, FF space, then you got font family, and space again, you got kind of a template. So you can choose between, sans serif or monospace. And also notice these three fonts. Okay, Arial, Consolas, and Melo. These are carefully chosen, after hours, days of research. For example, if you want sans serif, the most popular, common across platforms font is Arial. And what if you are on a Mac? Well, Mac happens to actually contain Arial as well. But what happens if you are on Linux? Well, in the Linux case, Arial is proprietary, Microsoft stuff. Actually, font is another, typography is another great topic I talked about many times in my video. In fact, the Arial is actually a clone of Mac's Helvetica. Okay, now I did a talk show about that. Let's see, XahTV typography. Okay, so yeah, Donald Knuth, Steve Jobs, and the idiocy of typography. Let's turn on JavaScript so you can see my previous talk show. I talked about this many times. Okay, so you can see Helvetica. Okay, Helvetica is like a kind of a code. The font Helvetica is kind of a code font, in the typography society community. So they chalk it to like how Helvetica is all important. Anyway, so Arial is actually a clone of Helvetica because Helvetica is copyrighted by Mac, So, they have to fight each other. They clone, just like open source, they clone, because selfish reasons, human animals, including the open source and free software fanatics. So Arial is actually a clone of Helvetica. So what does it mean, a clone? Well, technically they redesigned everything, so it's from the ground up. It's not actually a copy. But what do they actually copy? Well, they actually copy what's called the metric. In font community, it's called metric compatibility, meaning that if you use Helvetica or if you use Arial, they pretty much look the same. Essentially means their height, the lowercase height, the vertical case height is the same. Font size is the same. If you have font size, so anyway, so Arial is a kind of a clone of Helvetica. Okay. Now, what if you are on Linux? Well, Linux also have a clone. Okay, it's called liberation or something. The open source fanaticism. They have it the name liberation or something. So let's, I have lots of articles on font. Okay. Speaking of that, let me show you. I want to mention, if you don't know CSS. Oh, I was wondering why some of my color become red. That's not in my CSS. Because actually we just added it there. Actually, so we should remove this. I don't want that there. So, let's refresh and you'll see the red gun. Okay, yeah. So just search for XahTV CSS. You'll find my CSS tutorial. So if you don't know nothing about CSS, this is a great tutorial. Okay, covering from basics, tag matching, and selector syntax. The entire selector syntax is covered here, including some of the esoteric advanced ones. Then units, then color. Color is, and there's also JavaScript. You can change. You can use the color wheel, and okay, you need to turn on CSS. I mean, you turn on JavaScript. Okay, refresh. So change your color. Let's say green. The value is, wait, why is it not showing? Wait, my JavaScript is broken. What? Ah, okay, we need to fix that. What the heck? Okay, let's digress. Let me fix that. So open this file, CSS color, search for JavaScript. Okay, so HTML input color JavaScript. Okay, so open that. So wait, so what is going on? So this is the file ts. Did we forgot to compile? Let's see the JavaScript. Let's make a backup. So color picker X, display box X. Okay, so now let's compile the TypeScript. I think, okay, press. So how do you compile? So the emacs command, XahTypeScript compile file. Okay, let's do that. Do it. Okay, successful. Okay, let's see. Okay, successful. So it becomes that. So now let's refresh the page. It's not showing the value. The value should show here. I mean the hexadecimal. Okay, so let's fix the code. What is going on? Okay, so press F12 to get to the JavaScript console. Okay, type error, cannot read property, add event listener of null. Cannot read property, add event listener of null. So open that. Color picker X. So color picker X. What? So get document element by ID color picker X. So any comments? Hey Emily, good morning Emily. Hello from Amsterdam. Pavel Popov. Hey, haven't seen you for a while. I found you through your Emacs blog. Tutorial was great. Thank you, Himanshu. Okay, so we are trying to fix this JavaScript, this TypeScript file, a digression. Should be pretty easy. Okay, but let me just let me do this quickly. So we got color. So let me okay. So since I'm doing JavaScript, let me also explain. So the color picker part is that label for color picker. Okay, so this is the color picker 1. Okay. Oh, we got ID incorrect. Ah, shit. Yeah, you see, we got color picker 1 here, but in the TypeScript, we got color picker X. So, stupid me, I sometimes edit my files and change, rename things. So that is why it got fucked up. So let's change this to color picker X. Okay. And color picker X. Okay, and the display box should be display box X2. Okay, so showing browser again. Now you see the color value. So let's change it to something green. Okay, did it update? Okay, so let's say that, yeah, it did update, but it's blocking this. Okay, you can see it's updated as I move. This is part of my feature of JavaScript. Okay, yeah. So if you don't do JavaScript well, it will not update interactively. So anyway, so I got fixed this page. Now press a key to update the last updated. You see the last updated April 22nd. So press a key, showing browser. August 3rd, we updated that. Okay, so back to my talk about my CSS tutorial. So if you don't know CSS, check it out. Okay, so you got color names, you got HSL color. Okay, so you see, so you can change the hue, you can change the saturation, or dynamic, update as you type, as you adjust this and random colors. Okay, you can see opacity, illustration of CSS opacity. You can see then there's a linear gradient, JavaScript again, rainbow, random, number of colors, let's say 3, random, number of colors 7, random. Okay, now direction, okay, random direction. You can see it direction changes, it's kind of rotate. Random direction, random color, fantastic. Okay, that's CSS linear gradient. Then you have radial gradient. So random, center, let's see, circle, ellipse, random. So these are the parameters. Okay, then you I talk about font. Common web font. These fonts are available in most platforms. Okay, so before we were talking about font compatibility. Arial. What if you don't have Arial on Linux? Well, on Linux you have So on this page I discuss basically the most popular, and basically I talk about the font names you should know about. Okay, so Courier, Liberation. Okay, so you see, so when you choose Arial on the Mac, it's compatible to Helvetica on the Mac. But actually, Mac also has Arial because Mac is a commercial entity, Apple. They paid Microsoft so that Apple will also have the Arial font, exactly. But alternatively, they can simply use Helvetica. Then the two looks almost exactly the same. But on Linux, so you have Liberation Sans, the open source spirit. They also cloned it. Then Google, Google the Empire, Google Empire. They think around 2013. We need a clone too. They created Alamo. Okay, so how do I know all this? Well, days and days of research, reading Wikipedia. That's what I do every day. For the past 30 years, before there's Wikipedia, I read encyclopedia obsessively, like every day. I go to the library, so there used to be Britannica and Encyclopedia, Americans, Goyler's Encyclopedia. In fact, if you just search for XahTV Encyclopedia, I have like 5 articles talking about encyclopedias, very old articles. Okay, encyclopedias, my experiences, technology for knowledge in the past 2 decades. Okay, I have quite a few articles on essays on encyclopedia. So let me show you a few. So encyclopedia, my experiences. Okay, this is a Goyler Academic American Encyclopedia. This is actually my favorite encyclopedia in the 1990s. Okay, it's illustrated. I read a lot. I read tons of it. I read encyclopedia every day. So in the 1990s, before Wikipedia, there's these So I also bought, I'm the first one in 1993 when the CD-ROM technology came out. CD-ROM, back then the hard disk space is 40 megabyte. Okay, 40 megabyte, the most biggest hard disk, well, almost the big, the expensive hard disk, 40 megabytes. That's 1993, around there. Okay, or 80 mega. By 1993, it's probably 80 megabyte. Okay, hard disk, the high-end hard disk. Then CD-ROM technology came out. Where the Bill Gates will say, CD-ROM is amazing. Thin disk, it contains 500 megabytes. Oh my God, 6 times more than your hard disk. CD-ROM technology. So okay, so that's wait, what happened? I want to reopen that. Go back to my encyclopedia article. So anyway, so I talked about encyclopedia. Then I'm the first one, when the CD-ROM came out, I'm the first one to buy it, $550, which includes the online, the digital version of the Gorillas American Encyclopedia. I'm the first one to buy it in 1993, $550. Then later on, 2004, I paid and bought Microsoft Encarta. Wikipedia began around 2002, 2003. For the first 5 years, there's no, it's pretty not good. Very few articles, and they are just driven mostly by open source fanatics and programmers. And also in the beginning, in the first 5 years of Wikipedia, whenever they mention Microsoft or Apple, whenever they mention Microsoft, okay, they'll just badmouth it. Oh, Microsoft is an evil company. That's the state of Wikipedia the first 5 years in the 2000s. So anyway, Microsoft back then have Encarta, but pretty soon, about 5 or 10 years after Wikipedia, basically it killed all other encyclopedias, and also for good reasons too. Because from my judgment, I would, if you believe me, from my fair observation, Wikipedia after 10 years is truly superior than basically all others, even including Britannica, okay? But in the past 5 years, Wikipedia went kind of bad again because of the social justice, lots of fake news, fake stuff on Wikipedia, propaganda, by the mainstream, by the powerful mainstream, such as, mainstream people, enterprises, establishments, non-profit organizations. They all try to, change Wikipedia. And also, let me tell you that about a year ago, Google and other companies, search engines, started to not show Wikipedia as much. Before, almost everything you search, Wikipedia will be the top entry in Google search, but beginning about last year, Google started to not do that. So anyway, here's my few articles about encyclopedia, and here's technology for knowledge in past 2 decades. Okay, so my articles. Then the heart of, one of them, the heart of Wikipedia. Why is Wikipedia successful? Okay, if you are young, you may not know. When Wikipedia began, there's lots of, many nerds are actively against Wikipedia, because they have, especially the Linux kind of people, they have a superiority, superior mentality. When they say Wikipedia, when they see Wikipedia, they think, oh no, that's not, that's for stupid people. That's done by stupid people. We are the Unix people. We are superior. We don't talk about Unix on stupid, lame Wikipedia. That's that's a history. That's a mentality of the open source fuckheads, including especially the most severe such group is Lisp people, Lisp programmers, including Emacs coders. Okay, so So when Wikipedia began in 2003, for the first 5 years, other people contribute to Wikipedia. But when it comes to Lisp, okay, for example, let me talk about programming language, their reaction to Wikipedia. Let me talk about the programming language communities, their reaction to Wikipedia, okay? So when Wikipedia began in 2002, so the Perl people, the Python people, the PHP people, they are all contributing. You go to Wikipedia, the Perl on Python, or on, on Perl, Python, PHP, all you see basically are the fanboys. Okay, the fanboys will say, "Oh, Perl is a good, one of the great language. One of the most popular language because this or that, and used by Google, this, that, Python used by Google, this, that, they'll say they have a lot of articles, okay, written basically by fanboys, contributed to Wikipedia. But back then, when you go to the Lisp article, you can still verify it. Today, you go to Wikipedia, you go to, let's search for, let's say Wikipedia Python, okay? So here is a Wikipedia article on Python, and let's also go to Wikipedia Lisp, okay? So here's a Wikipedia article on Lisp, okay? Now, what you want to do is you want to view history. You want to see the article back in, let's say, 2005, okay? So you scroll all the way down. You basically, you find the article written in 2005, okay? I'm not going to do it because it takes a lot of time to get to it. So you find the version of the Wikipedia article on Python and Lisp back in 2005, you'll see that, the Lisp fuckheads, they are the superior beings in Lisp community. They do not contribute to Wikipedia. To them, it's like, oh, that's for idiots. That's for the Perl, PHP, those idiots. We are superior. We don't, if people want to learn about Lisp, they come to us, to the Lisp community, the mailing list, and so on. And in fact, I have an article on that in particular. So if you search for XahTV Wikipedia and Lispers, okay, so this is so I have hundreds of articles on Lisp. And emacs wiki, that's another, that's related to I know where to find the article, okay? So you go to my website, okay? You go to XahCode, you go to Netiquette Anthropology. Hello, Justine. Say something about how you're doing in mathematics or something. Netiquette Anthropology, okay? So let's search for, we have, let's search for Lisp, okay? Search for, it's not here. So let's search for, okay, somewhere here. I don't remember what's the word to search for. I can find it, okay? What is a tech geeker? So let me just read it. What is a tech geeker? What is a hacker? Hacker versus tech geeker. The one true history of mail. That is supposed to be the largest flame war on the internet, okay? The one true history of mail, okay? So let's add to today's talk show. So since we talked about this topic, okay, the one true history of mail and this Netiquette Anthropology, okay, and we talked about why is Wikipedia successful, okay? So I tell you the reasons, and this article about the technology of knowledge in past 2 decades. Hello from Saudi Arabia. Fantastic. Durham. So we talked about encyclopedia, my experiences. Read encyclopedia is what I do obsessively. Okay, so anyway, that's a lot digression. So we talked about Python and Lisp community. Yeah, so let me find, actually I do want to find the article. Okay, so Netocode Anthropology. File considered harmful, philosophy of Netocode, old school Netocode, tech geekers versus spammers, cross-posting and language factions, online posting accountability, okay, Second Life, tech geekers and escapism. So I was going to find the article where I talked about how Lispers in the Lisp community, they kind of distance themselves from Wikipedia. So my point is that at that time, for the first 10 years of Wikipedia, most 2000s, when you read, when you go to Python article or PHP article or Perl, you have lots of great information. But when you go to Lisp articles, there's little information and often incorrect information. And the Lisp people, they refuse to change it. That's the point I want to make. Okay, that's the point I want to make. Among you Emacs fans, you don't know. You live in the Emacs Lisp fantasy. The community changes. So this is part of history. Okay, so for the first 10 years, these people, they do not touch. They refuse to to contribute information about this on Wikipedia. That's also the case on Stack Overflow. On Stack Overflow, I don't know what's the case now, but for the first 5 years of Stack Overflow, when you search for Python questions or PHP or especially languages that without a code, you have lots of earnest information. People try to, answer the question. But when you find the Lisp questions on Stack Overflow, the first 5 years of Stack Overflow, you will find no information, often incorrect, or people who don't know what they're talking about. Meanwhile, the Lisp expert, the people who actually code Lisp every day, they have the mentality that they don't want to touch it. They are superior. That's a so that is what I say. That is my criticism of the programming, the hacker code community, or the programmers community. Okay, that's I'm trying to tell you. Okay, I hope that's good information, because you will not find this kind of information almost elsewhere, because this is critical of the community. If you say it in this community or in Python, you say anything negative, you'll get banned. Okay. So anyway, that's a lot digression into encyclopedias. Okay, so now let's go back. So we start to talk about we begin to talk about CSS, then Emacs Lisp CSS, then CSS tutorial, then font. Okay, so we talked about metric compatibility of Arial. Okay, Arial, Helvetica, Liberation Sans. Okay, and there are also other metric compatible fonts for different very popular fonts. Okay, so that is about my CSS tutorial. So if you like my stuff, if you enjoy Xah style, go read it, and also support me. You can buy it, you can read the entire thing offline. So you got JavaScript in depth, which also includes my CSS tutorial, and also includes my HTML tutorial. So pay me. Okay, thank you guys. So that is about CSS. So I was, so in the beginning we were talking about updates to my packages, and we were talking about CSS. So one thing leads to another. Let's go back to my packages. Okay. So that's some of the update my Emacs list packages. And so what else have I been doing in Emacs in the past few weeks? Quite a lot. I updated a lot of my Emacs list code and my website. Okay, this is okay. So that's a code update. Then, yeah, in the past month, I did a whole lot of talk show about focus on Emacs list. Okay, in July, lots of 5 or so pure Emacs list. Okay, so what else? So there are some things that's to do for myself, notes to do, and more massive tutorial update. Okay, that's about the updates. So how long have I been talking? 40 minutes. So now let's code some Emacs list. Comments and questions. Okay, post comments. Do I make sense of those of you are watching here? Do I make sense? Did you see? Did I give you some information you didn't know before? True or false? And or are those information you find it surprising, like useful, or like, oh wow, was it positive information, or do you think it's, oh, that's not important, that's just a random rant? Tell me about it. Okay, so that's about these things. Okay, the next thing, let's do some Emacs list coding. Okay, yeah, let's do some 10-20 minutes Emacs list coding, and that'll be it for today. Great. Hey, Justine, you made sense. Great. True. Okay, fantastic. So let's now. Oh, I only have 5 people watching. The poverty of my show. Hey, Emily. Yeah, I never realized about that history with the community being so insular. Yes, great word. Proper use of the word insular was really interesting to find out about. Great, thank you. So let's do some Emacs list coding. Okay, so there's something I want to do to my CSS. Okay, so let's see what we're gonna do. So I was going to rename a bunch of commands, but let's not, okay? Because when you rename things, that breaks a lot backward compatibility. I'm not sure, but I do want to rename. But I'm gonna do the renaming. I'm gonna think about it and do it offline. But now, let me show you what these commands do and what I want to change. I want to make some enhancements. Okay, so let's go to CSS. Okay, so let's open a sample CSS file, copy it, new buffer, paste it. Okay, actually close it. I don't want here. Okay, paste it, save it, xx.css. So this is kind of a temporary file. We are going to work on CSS. So I'm using, right now I'm using XahCSS mod. You can see in the mod line. Okay, so what command do I provide? So you can describe mod. Okay, describe mod. Okay, so you can see XahCSS is an interactive, blah blah blah, defined in XahCSS mod. Okay, and it's the key binding, that is my personal key binding. Okay, to invoke the mod. The parent mod is prog mod, programmer's mod, programming language mod. Okay, so major mod for CSS. So that's a URL. Open it. So that goes to the. Okay, so key bindings. Okay, so these are the commands I provide. So let's see. So let's see this one, CSS expand to multi-lines. So you can see right now they are very compact, because so each line, you can see each line is a kind of a unit for CSS, so kind of a compact. So, but if you want to edit this, let's say, if you want to change font, you have to add somewhere, let's say font family, then that. Okay, so, but sometimes it's already, let me show you what this command do. Okay, so let's see what's the key. Okay, F9E. F9 is right under my thumb. Okay, so let's look. Okay, wait. Magnify. Okay, so F9E. So you see, now it becomes readable. You see, so if I select the whole buffer, coed, now everything is become more readable. Each attribute is now on a line by itself. You can see. Okay, so you see. So, but now if I want to compact the whole thing again, so what's the key? So let's see, compact, so you call P, F9P, okay, so, okay, that does it to one line, that does it to another, that does it, okay, so it just works on the current kind of brackets, okay, so, but let's select all, do it, okay, so now you can see, wait, so now you can see it's like that, okay, so let's, so undo, redo, okay, so that's what this command do. So what I want to fix is that the expand to multi-lines, you see, first of all, I have to make a selection first, because otherwise it just works on the current kind of the CSS unit. So I want to write a command so it just do the whole without selecting all. Okay, so let's go to, let's jump to the source code. So expand to multi-lines buffer. Okay, so by the way, I'm going to change this. I probably will change some of these command names because I'm going to, I probably will change names. So when you download my XahCSS mod, you may find, the command name will be different. So why do I want to change the command names? Because the naming of things is kind of an art. Okay, so for example, compact CSS buffer. Okay, so for example, let's select all. Let's do E. Okay, so now it's expanded. Now I can call compact CSS buffer F9 dash. Okay, so it compact the whole buffer. Now, so why is the naming kind of odd? Because I'm thinking of renaming this compact CSS buffer to XahCSS format compact. Okay, so like I talked about in talk show. So let's go to talk show. So here, so you see, I want to change it to format compact. Why? Because when you have the name, the word format, then people understand what it is. Okay, it's kind of more general because what you are doing is actually reformat the thing. So for example, in Golang, the Go language, you have a built-in tool called Go Format, okay, FMT, GOFMT. For example, I can show you which Go format, okay? So you can see that's from Golang. And in Deno, the JavaScript compiler Deno also has a Deno format, okay? So which Deno, okay? Deno, so Deno help, okay? Let's see if that Deno help. So you can see search for format. You see Deno also have a command option format source code. So the word format for the command formatting source, that's kind of common. Okay, so I kind of have a decision to make when you write this command. Should it be compact CSS region? This naming scheme is more direct. There's pro and cons, advantage and disadvantage. There's no one absolute answer. But if I use the format compact word, it's kind of more general. It's kind of possibly easier to find. I don't know. So that's why I say the naming of things is an art. And also it's quite important because it's very important, the naming of things, because, for example, let's consider bash shell, the Unix toolbag bash commands, ls, cat. Okay, let me show you my articles, okay? Let's go to, so naming of things. So we were talking about naming of things. So first of all, let's go write it down. Talking about naming of commands. Naming of things, okay? So for example, let's go to Unix, my Linux tutorial, okay? Everything you wanted to know about Unix. So you have, the Unix bash commands, ls, cd, pwd, esoteric, each one of them is touch, touch, I'm gonna touch you, touch, rm, cp, make mkdir, mkdir, rmdir, mv, du, cat, vi, vi, head, tail, So that's a Unix tradition, they like that way. So naming of things. So let me talk about naming of things, okay? And this relates to programming jargons, okay? So let me show you my articles, okay? First of all, let's paste it, okay? So let me show you. So you go back to my Linux, you go to my website, you go to the homepage of XahTV.info, then you scroll down, then you'll see a complete set collections of essays, jargons of software industry. Okay, so naming of things is related to jargons. Okay, so when programmers use math jargons such as Git directed acyclic graph, or Haskell monad, or HTTP idempotency, or Lisp homoiconicity, they don't know which side is mouth, which side is ass. That's a typical programmers. Anyway, that's a kind of a digression into a separate topic. So in this collection of essays, I talk about kind of jargons, and it's heavily related to naming of things. So let me tell you pros and cons of naming. Okay, so let's go back to the Linux. Okay, so for example, so the way Unix named their commands, okay, first of all, there's one advantage. The commands are short, convenient to type, because you have to use this command every day, every minute, almost every hour. Every 5 minutes you have to type all these commands. So short names is great for, it's a great help, okay? That's one advantage. But there's also a disadvantage associated with that. These command names are not descriptive. So when you see, that's why typically when you see a shell, bash script, what the fuck are they? You don't know what they're doing, bash script. Cryptic, So that's a disadvantage. Now in comparison, let me show you a comparison, okay? So you go to PowerShell, for example, let's go to PowerShell and let me log what we talked about. So PowerShell. So let me show you some of the commands, okay, in PowerShell. PowerShell, the naming of PowerShell, you can see how they choose their name, okay? So so PowerShell, they decided, so they also have the naming issue. Which name should we choose? We want, there are several aspects. The name should be descriptive, so that when you see it, you'll kind of know 99% of the time exactly what the command does, okay? That's the advantage of naming, especially when you have long full names. But when you have that, you have a disadvantage. You can, it's hard to type. You have to type 10 keystrokes to call a command. What do you do? So PowerShell, the guy at Microsoft who created PowerShell around 2003. Okay, PowerShell is by now it's like 15 years old. The first prototype is around 2003. It was called Monad. Okay, PowerShell. The original name for PowerShell is Monad something. Okay, so PowerShell. So how do they solve the naming issue? Okay, they want long names, descriptive names, and also they created a scheme so that every PowerShell command is two the name is two components. The first part is verb, okay? So for example, where object, for each object, add something, get something, set something, clear something, okay? So, compare something, copy something, okay? So the name it has two components. The first word is a verb. It describes what kind of thing, what kind of activity it is about. The second part is the noun, okay? So what it tells you what kind of thing it works on. So naming scheme, okay, but it's a long name. But how do you solve the typing shortcut problem? They created a kind of a alias system built in, okay? So then there's another question. How do you decide which abbreviation to use, okay? Then the way PowerShell people decided is that many of the built-in alias is based on the similar command name in Unix, Bash, or in the command.exe, the old terminal command line from Windows. So this is so what I'm saying is that the naming of things is kind of critical, and they are related to jargons. For example, scientific jargons. You have jargons in physics, in chemistry, in mathematics. How do they choose the jargons? There are many aspects. Descriptive communication, and also connotation, and lots of aspects about naming of things. Okay, so this is one way. This is the way I'm talking about PowerShell. So this is how PowerShell people they deal with this issue. On the other hand, the Unix people, I don't like the Unix people. They are hacker fuckheads. Okay, how do they solve this problem? How do the Unix people or the Unix philosophy, when it comes to naming of things, many issues. Descriptive, how descriptive the name is. How do you solve the typing problem? Many issues about naming. How do the Unix people solve it? Essentially, the Unix people, basically everything in Unix and C language, they go by no brain, no thinking. They are not designed. Everything about Unix is like that. That's why I very much despise just about everything, every tool, every aspect, every kernel design, and everything about Unix, okay, which became Linux, Unix and C language. It's not like they don't think, okay? It's not like they decided, oh, well, yeah, we suppose I'm a Unix people, the 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Oh yeah, we realized there's a naming issue, but we decided, we decided that for this or that reasons we want short names. Forget about we prefer the short names over readability. Okay, they decided on that. No, it's not like that. It's more like they never thought about the problem. They just at the time 40 years ago, 30 years ago, oh well, ls happens to be convenient on this keyboard, 40 years old terminal, the 80 lines by 80 columns by 24 characters. It just so happens, it works. That's a key word for the Unix and C design. It works now. That is how you got these command names in Unix, okay? Fuck the Unix. And the Vim too, Vim, VI is exactly that way. It just happened to work, at that time. Okay. So that is about the naming of things. Okay, that's kind of went into a giant digression. Now, it became one of my angry rant against the Unix, everything. Okay, so now let's see. Do we go back to the coding of the CSS Smart? Let's do 5 minutes or even. It's still good. So we wanted to code CSS. We wanted to let's go to XahTalk show. We wanted to okay, we need a version that reformat multiple lines to call her buffer. Okay, so let's do that. Emacs list coding. Okay, we also talk about this. Okay, cut it. Let's put it back here somewhere. So we have a kind of a record. What we talked about. So that's text. So paste it here. So that's about that is about XAH math input mod. Okay, so interesting characters. Unicode characters, and now we want to go back to do CSS, right? So what is this? Okay, close that. Where's my CSS? Right. So we want to. Okay, let's go to the source code of this command. XAH expand to multi-lines. Okay, open it, go jump to it. So jump to the source code. So here is the command. Okay, now let's make a copy, paste it here, and then we select it. We just call a command to narrow to region. So all we see is just this function. So we're gonna name this XAH CSS expand to multi-lines buffer. Okay, so this will work on the whole buffer. So all we have to do is actually very simple. It's actually just call that command, then buffer min, point min, point max. Okay, so that's all we have to do. so simple. Okay, so expand minified CSS code to multi-lines for whole buffer. Okay, that's it. That is it. Now expand the narrow to region. So so that's all we have to do. Okay, so now we need to give it a key. So let's give it a key. So let's search for that command. So for now, let's just give it a key. So let's copy that and do that. What the key should it be? Again, the designing of key binding is another art. So I don't know which key should it be. For now, let's let it be random. Okay, I. So we have something to some key. So I'm going to change them offline. Okay, I think that's it for today. Any comments, questions? No comments. So I talked for 1 hour already. So I think that's it. Concurrent viewers 11. So now I have 11 views. Okay, so anything else? Comments, okay? Comments. So basically we are done. I'm done today for today's talk show. I think next talk show I'm gonna do Wolfram language coding again. So we talked about the naming of things. That is one of my great. Did we copy my articles about jargons? No. So let's go back to it. So let's go to talk show, back to the talk show page. So we talked about Linux command names, okay? Then jargon, yeah, so I need to copy this. Wait, what? Yeah, there's okay, so actually here. Okay, so compact, so let me show, I'm going, so this is my workflow. Let's compact this this list ID, the list. So we talked about encyclopedias. we talked about, so those are related topics. So then we talked about, okay, there are more emacs commands I want to do. Okay, so then that's it. So about encyclopedia, death of Encarta. So around 2010, about 7 years after Wikipedia. So Microsoft says that we are going to shut down Encarta. So Microsoft announced it in 2009. Microsoft to kill Encarta later this year. Microsoft, so Wikipedia won. On the topic of Wikipedia, each programming, in the nerd community, programmers, they have usually very dramatic opinions. Usually many attack it, while many embrace it. Because Wikipedia, the foundation, the original, back in 2002. 2002 is what is the early days of internet. It's not like today. You have so many stuff, and mostly, today in the internet, vast majority is either, people just use 10 websites. That's 20 websites. There are literally 10,000, 100,000 websites. The vast majority of people, 90% of the time, they only use, basically 20 websites, and they are all just mainstream websites: Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Stack Overflow. That's a situation. So 2002 is, but in 2002 it's not like that. 2002 is the beginning of internet, and back then it is also when the open source fanaticism began, to a very heavy open source fanaticism, kind of the concept of communism. Okay, so people are thinking we should, there are some words associated with that era, such as swarm intelligence, meaning that the masses can actually create great things. Actually, that's the result. The result of that is Wikipedia. Okay, so anyway, back in 2002, there are many ideas, networking effect, lots of keywords, at that time. So people wanted to, so that's why the origin of Wikipedia began by two guys. One is Jimbo Whale. Okay, he's a scumbag. I recommend never donate to Wikipedia. Okay, Jimbo Whale is a scum. He, before Wikipedia, he's running some pornography. Okay, got that pornography. Jimmy Whale today is like, whale, dressed in tie and giving talks at major universities or organizations, talking about how great is Wikipedia, a vision, where human knowledge or is all free. He is running porn websites. He happened to make Wikipedia, so that's one of his way to make money. Okay, anyway, so there's nothing wrong of running porn website, but he tries to hide that. That is the problem. Okay, also Jimmy Wales. Okay, then there's another guy which is also a scum. He is a very conservative, Wikipedia founder. Just search for, I'm not going to show. Search for Wikipedia founder. There's a Wikipedia article on that, which gives you, I believe, fair history of it. Okay, so Jimmy Whale is one of the founder, but there's another guy who is also a scum. I would describe him as a extremist Christian. Okay, he's a Christian. He's a devout believers in Christianity, but he's an extreme case. So in his opinion, anything that's not Christian value, he will go out of his way to destroy you, basically. He's a scum. I didn't know before, but in the past I had some correspondence with him. So anyway, both of them. So the Jimbo Whales tries to erase history. He's running porn sites and all that. He says, no, he tries to hide it. He says he runs a glamour site. Occasionally he will say, when people ask him. Anyway, but he also tries to remove the fact that there's another guy who began Wikipedia with him. In fact, I believe that Christian guy is actually the more the kind of the more of the original idea. Okay, let's get the names up. Okay, so we can. So you see, Jimmy Wales, okay, founders of Wikipedia. Let's go to it. Okay, there it is. Larry Sanger, Jimmy Wales. They are about my age. They are, one is older, one is 2 years older than me. So Jimmy Wales, which is the guy to be the Wikipedia founder, he is a scum. He, never donate to Wikipedia because all your money mostly goes to his pocket. Whenever he give a talk, it's like $100,000, scum. And Larry Sanger is also a scum. He's an extremist Christian, okay? And Jimmy Whale tries to erase history, saying that, he don't mention Larry Sanger much, So anyway, that's my take about these two people. Both are scummish guys. So what I was saying. So I'm just talking random now. Could you talk about accessing DBpedia using CL something in your coming talks? No, I don't know nothing about DBpedia. Okay, I probably can tell you what I can. I probably know what is that about. DBpedia. Okay, that's kind of open source thing, right? So let's go to let's see what it is. Okay, let's see Wikipedia. Okay, DBpedia. Before reading the article, it's probably some kind of a new open source group, gang, trying to create a new Wikipedia encyclopedia. Okay, let's see. DBpedia is a project aiming to extract structured content from the information created in Wikipedia project. Okay, this structured information is made available on the World Wide Web. DBpedia allows users to semantically query relationships and properties of Wikipedia resources. Semantic relationship, okay, including links to other related data sets. Okay, in 2008, Tim Berners-Lee described DBpedia as one of the most famous part of the decentralized linked data effort. Okay, yeah, I kind of know. Yeah. It has no future. I can tell you right now, it has no future. It's in the way I would describe it, even though I don't know much about it. I don't know much anything concrete or specific about this project. However, for my 20 years experience in the hacker community, especially the open source, group of people, this is a dead thing. Okay, it's going nowhere. It's every year the open source people, the fanatics, kind of open source fanatics, they are going to create every year, every few years, they are going to create their own version of Twitter, for example. It happens many times. They all kind of died. They all kind of, very few users, except 10 people of these fanatics. So every few years, they are trying to recreate Twitter, an open source version. They are trying to recreate Stack Overflow. Or, well, not much that. Because Stack Overflow, I believe it's, the content is already open source. But anyway, they are, for example, they are also trying to create an open source clone of the Discord. They are trying to create an open source, basically they are just, the free software or open source fanatics. Every time they see something on the web that becomes big and famous, they are trying, they have an urge, because they have a vision, they want to create a free version, but they always fail because they always fail. Like their product, people forgot, like today, this Mastodon, I don't know if you guys still have heard of it. A few years ago, it was, Mastodon is gonna, the new version of Twitter, the open source version. And before that, there's several instances, it's all forgotten. There's GNU network, But basically, they fail. They always fail because these people, they don't, they are fanatics. So they don't, which means they don't have a healthy view of the world, of how things work, how reality, is. But what they have is an ideology-driven view. So they, the open source or free software foundation fanatics, they see the world. They truly they think that it must be this way, so that it's free, shared by everyone. Okay, that's their vision. But ideology-driven, but not in touch with reality. So what happens when you push an ideology to the real world? That's incompatible with reality. That's not how things works. Well, the result is whatever you are pushing doesn't work. It dies, or it has no effort. It creates chaos. It creates misery in the world, which is the case right now. Google, Facebook, Twitter. Google is the one who pushed open source all over. And Microsoft now is the biggest contributor of open source, So what they created, so today you see the misery, these programmers, condition, okay? And even today, these people are still, they don't understand, they don't see things, especially younger people. They still think, we need to contribute open source. What they are really happening is that they are making this empire, Google, Facebook, Twitter, with censorship, more and more powerful and bigger. And now they created the kind of the social justice, evolved into the social justice kind of thing all over the, white people nations, USA, Canada, Australia, UK, and it's that's getting into politics. So but this is what I believe. Okay, much of today's society in the past 20 years, much of the change, social structure or perception, is actually created by technologists. Okay, Google. Us, okay, Google, most Google, Facebook, Twitter. Then they become the info. They become the today. They become the they control information. Every day you wake up, you go to Twitter, Facebook. That most for a lot of people. Like more than 50% of the population in the world. So they become, controlling information. Technologists, okay, they created, us programmers created the situation. But however, we begin with good intention, okay, because I was one of the hackers. I supported Google very much, and I was also a good, you can call me a Richard Stallman fanatic back then, 20 years ago. I supported Richard Stallman even over open source, okay, because I believe the Free Software Foundation has an ethical quality. Anyway, so we programmers, in the beginning, we have good intentions. We want to share, we spread information, Then Google came up. Google, for the first 10 years, at least the first 5 years, was a very great company. Their software, in every aspect, is higher quality than Microsoft, for example, much higher quality in almost everything. That is why, and with our support, and also they are big sponsor of open source, and some open source project they pay, so open becomes more powerful, and then it becomes evil empire. Today it's worse than Microsoft ever was. So that's another my rant against the open source. So so this is what I believe. Okay, so programmers, because the computers becomes more and more powerful. Computers, AI, robotics, they all came from computers, computing power. Technology changes society throughout human history. What changes the structure of society. What caused society to change? The most, by a magnitude, the most important aspect is technology. Technology changes, then it changes society. For example, we have industrial revolution and other things in history. Okay, so in the past 20 years, it's computers. We made it, and then we have good intentions, and it becomes bad. Okay, so that is what I say. Okay, another question about keyboard, about what do you think is worth about Vorak keyboard. I talked about that many times. That's it. But that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Bye. I'm shutting down in 2 minutes. No more than 2.